Hi everybody, it's Eero here, and today I want to talk about certain really pressing issues in today's fitness industry, something that I've been thinking about a lot and I think are causing some issues. Before that, I want to mention or talk about certain things that are related about my own past, about my own training. And I'm sure like some of you already know, because I talk about this in other videos, that when I started training, I had it already, the very start, I had like back pain. My hips were a complete mess and I had a lot of like troubles, pains and aches in my body back then. And well, when I went to training, obviously for me, in order to not make things worse and even try to start to fix this, it was important to me to have a certain like form, and this obviously like a textbook form. I watch from like videos, what's the perfect form to do this and that exercise, the safe way to do. But you know, obviously, because I didn't get the answers I was looking for, I started to explore, you know, many different exercises, all the different possible forms. Like I've done the good and the bad and the ugly exercises, and it's safe to say I've done a huge amount of different exercises, tried and tested. You know, there's always more to do, but still. And after all these experiences, all these years of doing these exercises, I can say like the most important thing was not what exercise I was doing. The biggest thing that made the difference in what results I got was how I did this exercise. It was my approach. It was that individual sort of body intelligence that I applied in these exercises. The control, how I did them. That was the major thing. A particular exercise never was really good or it wasn't bad for me. It was always how I did it, and since then this approach is something that I try to spread in this channel in my training programs, Movement Training XX. Many people have found this beneficial in my coaching as well. Not focusing on the external exercise form too much, but trying to understand these exercises internally through your own body. But so now to the main subject of this video, which is related to what I just talked about, but that is, you've probably seen these titles in videos all over social media, even in Instagram, titles such as "Stop doing this exercise," or like something like "This exercise is killing your gains," this type of titles, which in essence usually they are a clickbait title. They are there to gain views, first of all, because they're tempting to watch. Okay, what is this bad exercise? And another factor obviously is, you know, that the information that is spread in the video is usually somewhat deceptive. It's not entirely honest. There are usually some good tips, but also something that's not very true. So usually in these videos there's presented either there's just a dangerous exercise, or there's the one particular form of an exercise that is considered dangerous. And so usually this is like, there's no like sort of options. It's just bad. It's just a bad form. No matter who does it, what is your preparation, how you do it. It's a bad and dangerous exercise. It's probably going to get you injured.
Hi guys, I want to really demonstrate to you what happens to your spine when you do this exercise. So I want you to imagine this is your spine. So when you do this exercise, what's going to happen is, look very closely. It's science. It's pure and simple. So guys, never do this exercise.
Now, I'm not really trying to make fun of this. I think there's a serious issue here, and that's that doing training can be dangerous. Like doing exercises, you can get hurt. That's the reality here that you must understand. But it's presented in such a deceptive and bad manner in these videos, and it's always it's this one exercise. You do this one exercise and that's it. When in reality there's a risk in almost any exercise that you're doing. It's safe to say that there are many exercises out there that are not good for most of the people. Let's say the scissor squat, for example. Some of you can probably, who are watching this video, you can do it quite easily. For some it just comes naturally because they have a better, usually it's better strength, there's some athletic background and so on. Many of you should not touch scissor squat properly in a long time, at least before you've done sufficient amount of like preparation with easier exercises to really strengthen those leg muscles and gain good control, not just in the quads, but also in the glutes, hamstrings, even in your core area. So there are exercises that certainly are not for everyone, and you can also say that some of these exercises, again the sissy squat, might not be too practical for everyone. So it might not give you that much benefit so that you should do it. But regardless of all these reasons, this doesn't mean that an exercise, the sissy squat or any other that is categorized as bad, is inherently bad or universally bad exercise. This categorizing of exercises as inherently bad, I think, is very black and white. It gives a very wrong idea of training in general. I think it affects our training in general in a very negative way. It causes so much confusion, so much unnecessary fear among so many trainees. Because what this sort of implies is, it says right to your face that no matter who you are, what's your individual strength, how much you prepare, how well you do an exercise, you can't make it work. And this is kind of subconscious message that is also spread in other exercises as well, is that you need to follow a strict external form so that these exercises are safe or that they are effective. Following external form is sort of the beginner way, and it's a good way in the start to do this because there isn't much touch in your body, so you need to sort of try to perhaps externally understand what is a good way to do an exercise. But at the same time, you should always strive to get that sort of internal touch of these exercises, which is basically mind-muscle connection. It's body awareness, it's body intelligence, it's mindfulness when you do an exercise. This dangerous exercise categorizing approach is directly against what I believe to be the most important basically thing in training, which is this sort of body intelligence, where you're in control, you are in charge of your body. So this is why I think it's such a detrimental approach in general. There are other negative things that also follow this approach. One is, for example, that you don't never really have to face the real issue behind this sort of, for example, pains and problems that you may have, because so you're doing a certain exercise causes you pain, then you modify that form externally usually to take the stress away so that it doesn't cause pain, which is a good temporary option, but it does not usually fix the issue, which is usually imbalances in the musculature, could be too much resistance, and so on. So the real issue is always usually there's a few of these things. Like I said, there's too much resistance, you're using way too much weight, or doing too hard of an exercise for you to control, in which case it causes unnecessary strain somewhere in your body. The other thing is obviously lack of preparation. You're just not prepared to do these exercises. Think about gymnasts, they do crazy stunts, crazy exercises, they don't get hurt. If you tried those, you might get hurt because there's no sufficient preparation, there's no sufficient body structure for it. Now, the ultimate reason what I've seen cause these troubles is obviously lack of control, and it's the lack of mindfulness, oftentimes the complete absence of these two. So this is what makes basically any exercise dangerous too, even those easier exercises that are so-called safe to do. If you don't use control in those exercises, then they can potentially hurt you. That's the truth. So you need to be very alert, and you need to be very awake and conscious when you're doing these exercises. You can't fall into that false sense of security that is basically comes just from avoiding certain exercises. And this whole categorizing thing, it's such a cheap authority, it's a cheap way to gain credibility to yourself, for you to appear that you know something when you just say this is bad, this is easy. It's an easy way, and it always kind of neglects the underlying reality there. The bottom line is that taking charge of your own body is the way to train both safely and effectively, and being critical basically conscious about every exercise you're doing. You need to analyze, can I do this safely or can I not do this safely? If not, then you don't do this exercise. That exercise is not for you, but it does not mean that some other people couldn't do it. Now, the other type of clickbait that I think is causing as much confusion as this dangerous exercise is usually is this one about the perfect form, or is the perfect form or the best form or the best way. They're kind of related to those dangerous exercises usually. You know, they're kind of connected to each other, because when you present the dangerous exercise, then you also usually present that good one or the perfect or something there as a contrast to it. A very commonly used exercise in this perfect form is the push-up. Okay, that perfect push-up is that, well, firstly you have that posterior pelvic tilt, you have basically a hollow body in your spine, you're kind of curved, and then you keep the arms are tucked as narrow as possible. And what then is, when you go down, you retract. When you come up, you protract fully your scapulas. So this is presented as some kind of ideal form of the push-up. This is a pretty good form of a push-up, and it trains certain attributes in your body, like sort of keeping that hollow body. It trains the mobility of your scapulas. It is basically a version that usually translates very well to gymnastics. I would call it the gymnastic push-up because you're also keeping that hollow body. So in terms of gymnastics or scapular mobility and, let's say, developing tricep strength, it's the optimal form. That is where it's the best. But universally, there is no such thing as the best push-up form. It just trains certain attributes, you know, every single different form. If somebody tells you this is the perfect possible form and these other forms are useful or not as useful, then you need to always ask, like, on what grounds does this hold true? Like, for what purposes? So the reasoning behind here is like, because it's best for my purposes, then it's useful for other people. I think this is a very deceptive approach as well. And it keeps people from trying or doing these other forms, which might be very, very beneficial, and also train many different areas in their bodies, emphasizing different areas and different muscles. If I want to train, for example, my scapular stability, and I want to really lock them in place and just move the arms, you could imagine like a bench press, and I do this push-up in such a form, you know, then I want to train. I do it because I want to train the scapular stability. If I want to really target the tricep, try to make the form such that it really puts my this elbow into flexion, to get a good stretch and a lot of range of motion in this extension, so that I can really train the tricep muscle. So it's all about, you know, the perfect form is truly the one that gives you those results that you're looking to achieve from a particular exercise. So the perfect form is the one that gives you the results that you want. That's simply perfect form of an exercise for you. It's always dependent on that context. A normal abdominal plank, some people say that you need to keep that very, very sort of arch, hollow body once again in there, and that's the best way to train your abs, best way to target those, and press this and that and that. And this is completely false. It transfers best to probably those gymnastic skills, but otherwise it's not better than all these other exercises. You need to also have stability and train your stability by having a more sort of neutral or natural curvature in your spine. You need to be able to do many different things. A powerlifter does his squats and deadlifts and bench presses in a very like strict form that is best for his results in regards to lifting the most amount of weight. And if you ask about, for example, from this powerlifter, what's the best form, he will show those forms. But there's so many different ways that you can do a bench press or a squat, like hundreds, probably like dozens of different forms, great forms that you could use. And in that sense, if you ask from a powerlifter for his purposes, those are useless. But for other people's purposes, these many other forms would be really beneficial. So you need to be very critical when you hear somebody kind of bring up this perfect form, and especially when he says that these other forms are useless. So what I wanted you to get out from this video is that you become a bit more critical when you hear these clickbait titles, because very often they're spreading this type of deceptive information in them. There's a hint of truth, but they're not entirely honest in their presentation. And in that regards, I also wanted you to understand that the most important thing, it's not really what exercise you're gonna do. That's important. But the biggest thing is how you do them. That's what I talk in so many videos, that the biggest things is how you do an exercise, how you control yourself when you do those. That's all for this time. I hope this video made you think a bit and made you more knowledgeable. And I really would like to hear what you think about all this, what I've been explaining here. Maybe you have some opinions, some experiences, you can comment down below. But Other than that, I will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.